what are the many parts that make a machine learning system feel like it works so magically, Chip?
Okay, so I really like a quote by like Arthur C. Clarke that says it's like any technology is sufficiently complex would be indistinguishable from magic. Just because we don't understand it, it seems like magic to us, right? So I do think
Mhm.
there's a lot of things about machine learning that is like hard to understand. So I think it's a shift from traditional software to machine learning. I think people have been talking about it a lot, so I hope you don't mind me repeating it. So for traditional software, usually it takes the input and you explain the transformation. So like a function. So you explain okay, takes the input, multiply by three and add something, blah blah. So you do exact calculations and you get the output. But whereas for machine learning, you do it other way around. You have the input and the output, and you tell the algorithm like, "Hey, figure out the functions." How's that? So we can produce input from the output. And because of that, that we don't really understand the functions that the machine learning algorithm comes up with. So, and I think it's not like it's just like one. It's not like a small function, right? Like a model can have like many parameters like I think like billions of them like in the certain in like nowadays. So it's just impossible, like it's really hard for us to just look at all these numbers and understand exactly what's going on. So there's a whole industries of like just trying to understand what exactly how exactly do these machine learning systems make predictions. So some of this is like this for some industry where being able to understand how machine learning algorithms make decisions. um, so where the explainability factor is important, then they tend to gear towards more simpler models with less parameters, but the easier to explain. And on the other spectrums, there are some use cases like it's just like incredibly large models that care more about the accuracy and the output than the explainability. So it really depends on your use cases. Like how much magic do you want to like it to
Right.
appear? Yeah.
Yeah, this is often a trade-off today, right? Where we could say, okay, let's go with the regression model that has maybe slightly less accuracy, but we understand exactly how each weight
Yeah.
contributes to the outcome of the model. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, like you're saying, we could have some uh, deep learning architecture with billions of model parameters, and there's no way, like even if we use explainable AI techniques to try to kind of understand how some model weights contribute in some particular circumstances, there are so many factors that it will never be fully explainable, but it might have slightly higher accuracy on some tasks.
So I do think this is like the requirements for explainability will change over time depending on the level of trust we can build with users, right? For example, like an example interesting like microwave. Like we have such a high level of trust with microwave that we are okay to put food inside it,
Mm.
right? Like just
Mhm.
use it without understanding exactly how it works. I don't think like many people understand how microwaves work. So I do think that in the future, if we have a lot more trust with AI, we can just like a lot of applications will open up because now we can be comfortable bringing up pushing really complex models that have really good performance without having to explain to people how they work underneath the hood. But I feel like we're still a little bit far from there.
Yeah, well, something that's cool that's starting to happen more and more today are these like model cards. Have you come
Yeah.
across those that like explain where the models are strong or where they might have issues? So, like for example, ChatGPT, obviously really incredible at surfacing some answers,
Yeah.
but is capable of very confidently lying. So you shouldn't be making like an important business decision based on some ChatGPT
And you're
suggestion
talking
alone.
about the Google Bard advertisement.
Yeah, that's
I
yeah. Go
I do
ahead.
think it's a big thing about like there's certain aspect of like ML's machine learning outputs that just like make it harder to bring things to production, but I don't think they are not solvable. So for example, like one nature of like ML algorithms, they are like predictive algorithms, right? So like only answers by default approximations. They're not like exact computations when you can like know like okay the answers will be exact. They
Exactly. Exactly.
approximations. And if you treat approximations like exact computations, then you're in for a world of trouble.
Exactly. And that's like so people at my own company,
Yeah.
not on my data science team, but more business minded people, they're like, how long is it going to be, John, before we can just have GPT-3 API in our platform or ChatGPT API when it comes out in the platform, and we don't have to worry about accuracy. And I'm like, that I don't know. It's going to be a really
Yeah.
long time because every single token, every single word that it's outputting to you, it's doing that probabilistically.
Yeah.
Like there's
I think like people have come up with designs like UX design to make it work. So for example, like one thing is just like because approximate, so you can have a lot of them and let user choose the best. So like instead of like entirely automation, it's more like augmentation. So like you give people, so like for example, like instead of like showing the direct response from the model to users, right? You can show users like three different options and they can choose the best one. Or they can just like or they can like edit on top of that. So like, maybe it's hard for you to like write the entire email or like, entire response from scratch, but like, you can just change a little. It can speed up productivity a lot. Or we have seen like quite some like interesting, for example, like we have known that like GPT can also generate code, right? So like so one of my friend has this startup, so they can let business owners, small business owners, build their own website without knowing how to write code. By you just like describe the website, choose it as an input, and this output the code. And a lot of times the code doesn't work like perfectly, right? But like they could show like users like 20 different options for what the code would like look would like render into a real website, and they choose a best website, and then you can iterate on top of that. So like, hey, Jared, more just similar. So I think that could be a very interesting way of like how to interact with things like approximate ML results.